Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Dave Sands. Welcome to the Food Origins podcast. I'll be talking to people about their unique stories with food. And as a quick reminder, the restaurants and gear talked about on each episode can be found on my website, foodoriginspodcast.com. I appreciate your support. And thanks for listening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Food Origins podcast. Today, my guest is Ben Robert. He is the owner and butcher at Gambrel and Company, Craft Butchery in Redwood City, California. We go over his early days growing up in Vermont, learning to hunt and forage at an early age, and then he developed a passion for cooking. We go over his culinary career that also not only was in the United States, but led him into Europe, where he took a trip, one-way ticket, to Italy and Spain and had a wonderful time there, getting exposed to making fresh pasta and learning whole animal butchery. Once he came back to the United States, he decided to open the butcher shop, and we go over what he has to offer and his upcoming projects. Appreciate everyone for listening. Hope you enjoy this one. Thanks for all your support. Take care. Holy smokes, we're live. Thanks,
Well,
Ben.
Hey, right on, Dave. Nice to be here.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. Got another podcast with Ben Robert, and he's the owner of Gambrel and Company Craft Butchery in Redwood City, California. Thanks, Ben.
Hey, no problem. Anything I can do to promote happy minds and happy lives through food.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your day, and tell us a little bit about yourself and, where you're from and all that good stuff.
Right on. Well, we opened the butcher shop a little over 8 years ago, and that was my first experience of owning my own shop after being executive chef of a restaurant in San Francisco and also cooking abroad over in Spain and Italy. The coolest part about the butcher shop was it was my own bag, and I also got to support farms, local and family here in California, kind of near and dear to my heart because I have a degree in plant and soil science, which is classically with ecological, management of agriculture and also making sure that we're providing all these amazing things for people to enjoy in future times.
Definitely, and we're going to get into all that he just mentioned, jumping ahead, but what town in Vermont did you grow up in?
So I grew up in a very small town called Perkinsville, Vermont, which is on the Connecticut River, about 800 people, and it was pretty small, very agricultural based in general.
Nice. And we'll get right into like childhood eats and stuff. What did you eat growing up out there?
A lot of lima beans, peas, vegetables mainly. Honestly, I was not a big meat eater. We had big gardens, and my grandmother on both sides, my mother and my father, were big gardeners, and they had lots of vegetables that we had to process and do lots of work for and eat. And so as far as steak goes, it's funny, I didn't eat a lot of beef growing up at all, really, until I was old enough to afford it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And what's your ethnicity? What's your background?
Basically, just a white Caucasian, but my main ethnicity is French, is my background,
Okay.
from my family down in New Orleans and also my family in New Hampshire.
Awesome. Was there anything you didn't like when you were growing up that you didn't like to eat? You were just like, ooh.
Like I mentioned before, lima beans.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had to shuck and peel and eat all these things, and they were great, but no, if you asked me to eat those now, I probably wouldn't. Very similar to a fava bean, which people are accustomed to out here in California.
Yeah. And those are not easy to prepare either.
No, not at all. You have to poach them, then peel them, and then poach them again. It's a real fun time.
Yeah. It's like cooking them like 3 times or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then was there any family meals or traditions that you guys had typically?
Yeah, so Speaking of New Orleans, we would go down there at least a couple times a year, and my grandfather's house was right on the Mississippi River, so we ate a lot of shellfish. And so the biggest thing was the crawfish boils, and I'll never forget those, and or crab boils. But my relatives would catch crawfish or crabs, and they'd all bring them over to my grandfather's house, and we would have boils with, like, thinking about it now as a kid, they were mountains high, but at least like a 3-foot high pile of shellfish that they would pile up on a picnic table, and we would all gorge and eat and love. And they had sausages and corn and sausage, like garlic cloves and mushrooms and whatnot.
Are there do they throw potatoes in there too sometimes?
Yeah. Little red potatoes would be another thing.
Yeah. I didn't eat crawfish growing up. Wasn't around it very much, but now, like, I started to see it, and being at a crawfish boil a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, this is why, it's cool. Like, everyone's gathered around, eating, and then trying to figure out, if you're new to eating crawfish, you got to figure out how to open it up, and then you have all this nice variety, and everyone's just hanging out. It's a good time.
It's a very community thing. I just ordered 20 pounds for my friend's birthday on the 23rd, so we're going to do that next weekend for him.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a surprise, so hopefully this doesn't come out before he hears it.
Yeah. No, we got some time. You got some time. And then, it sounds like I was reading a little bit about you. Try not to, go too deep, but like on what other people say about you is, I, try to, come up with my own information and questions for you and stuff. But like, it sounded like you started early cooking. So like, when did that really start, and your love for food and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I initially got my first job at a pizza place called Monaco's Pizza in Quechua, Vermont, when I was 14 years old. And initially I knew it was a really fun thing that I wanted to do, and my boss was really cool. And I ended up opening 2 pizza places with him over the next 8 years of our relationship, which was really cool. And that was kind of my start. And he got me really passionate about owning a business and doing your own thing and being really, like, confident about what you're doing and sharing all things good, which is food.
Yeah. What kind of pizza was it?
He did New York style pizza. He was from Connecticut originally, but he lived in Quechua, and we hand tossed all of our own pizzas, and we did the hand tossed New York style, and then we also did Sicilian pizzas, but very unique, different recipes and stuff, which was really fun.
Yeah, that's cool. And then, like, that's when it progressed, right? Like, you kept on going from there with food?
Yeah, after we had opened, so I opened another place for him in Randolph, Vermont, and then I opened a place for him in Burlington, Vermont. And then after that place, I got my first white tablecloth job at a place called Tilley's Cafe, which I worked as a line cook and then a sous chef, and then eventually became executive chef of that restaurant.
Nice. What kind of foods at Tilley's?
That was French Polynesian, which was like way out of my comfort zone. And we also did sushi there, which also was crazy. And we had this older gentleman that came and taught us how to do all the real secrets of everything sushi for like a month. And I took it to heart, and that's how I ended up being the guy, I guess, because I was more attentive than most.
Oh yeah, you just took it on.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a wide variety, right? Like,
Big
what kind of stuff were you making on the
well,
menu?
we did mainly fish. We did a few, not a lot of beef or anything like that, like we do obviously at the butcher shop, but mainly fish. It was all very, very fish based.
Seafood heavy.
Yeah, and having the New Orleans background with all the seafood, I was already very comfortable with dealing with fish. So it was like, oh yeah. Brer Rabbit kind of style.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I guess, is that, at what point did you, I know you went to school for plant and soil science, but at what point did you go to Europe?
So, I paid for college working at the Polynesian restaurant, Tilley's Cafe.
Yeah.
Then I moved to California with my girlfriend, and I got my job at Bar Bambino, which I was lucky enough to work with Elizabeth Binder, who was a Top Chef contendant and my mentor, really. And then when she left, I got executive chef of Bar Bambino. And when we closed Bar Bambino, I got a lot of job offers and all this stuff, and it was very alluring. But then that's when I bought a one-way ticket to Europe. And I went to Italy on a whim from a good friend of mine, Andre. And he gave me the opportunity to go over to Italy and meet his family, who then introduced me to some other people. And then I got a job at Lake Afane, which was in Serra Santa Bogna, which is just south of Umbria.
Nice. And how long were you out there?
So I worked in Lake Afane for about 4 months, but I was in Italy for 7. And then I came back and stayed for maybe 2 months, but still had the itch. And some of the people that I had met in Italy had introduced me to some people that lived in Spain, mainly Mallorca. And I went there to get a job after that. And that job fell through, unfortunately, but I got to stay on an island for 2 months and hike around and enjoy amazing food and culture. And then I moved to Barcelona and got a job at Caracoles, which is in the Bergatico in Barcelona.
Amazing. And I think I was going to ask you anyway about Italy and Spain, but what were the takeaways from Italy? Let's go with Italy first, and you must have some amazing.
Yeah, I could go on for days, but the most amazing part about Italy was that I had never left the United States, so it was my first experience, and I had worked in Italian food for quite some time, and I had dreamed and read all these books and, waxed and waned in my mind about what Italy was about. And my good friend, Andrea, had told me stories, and I never thought that it would come to fruition, that I would get to go and live with his family without him, even crazier. And so that was probably the coolest part, is just going over there and having no expectations, but the grandest expectations at the same time. And I remember landing on the plane, and I was meeting his brother in Bologna. And when I landed, I realized I didn't have a phone. So,
oops.
Yep, I had to go find a bus to get to a store to buy a phone, to talk to somebody who didn't want to really speak English with me, to dial a number I had in my pocket, and to meet him on a rainy day in one of the piazzas in Italy. And he met me, and that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
And I cooked them all dinner that night. We made maialate, which is a milk braised pork shoulder that I made this kind of spätzle dish with. It's called, I can't remember the name. It's a weird German name at this time. But anyway, it's like spätzle, but it's very delicious.
Yeah. And then, you got any other takeaways out of Italy? That's like when you first got there.
Yeah, so when I first got there, that was just shell shock that just someone would come meet me that I hadn't seen, and I met him maybe one time over the years. But the other most amazing takeaway was everyone took me in like that as family everywhere I went. And I don't know if that has to do with me being open or wanting to cook for them, because obviously everyone was like, oh, if you cook for me, you can stay here kind of deal. But through food, the culture over there just seemed more connected, whereas like, oh, if you're going to do this, or if you're willing to go and experience this with me via food, then you're my family right away. And that was probably the biggest takeaway, I think, from Italy. Yeah.
And was there, you stayed with one family or multiple different families?
Multiple families. I was lucky enough to go and see multiple different families. I got Andrea's family first, and then this woman, Sarah, and her family. And then I stayed with the people in Lake Afane, which was another family, and then people in Apiro, which was another family.
And what kind of food was at Lake Afane, that restaurant there?
So La Marque is very meat heavy, which is really cool. Yeah, everything they did, game meats, and mainly game meats. But the most amazing dish that Maria made was called Crescia. And this is a flatbread that they make out of pork lard, milk, Parmesan cheese, flour, and a little baking soda. And she would make these little dough balls, or I had to make them for a very long time. And then we would chill them, and then we put them through a pasta roller, and we'd make little rounds out of them and cook them over an open flame of wood. And all this wood I had to also stack every day in the back, but regardless of that, we would grill those, and then she would put pecorino is one of the most famous cheeses for La Marche. Okay. And she'd put pecorino, stewed greens, and sliced meats, prosciutto, coppa, speck, things like that. Mm-hmm. And then they fold them over, and people would just come over. They fold them once and then another time. So it's like a sandwich, like a club of Krisha, essentially.
Wow.
And they would hand these out to people. And they also had barrels, wooden barrels of wine on tap that you'd get your Krisha, and then you get your little cup of chilled white wine, which was also called pecorino, which is the Marque's very famous wine that they had as well. So you'd get the cheese and the wine, and
oh my
you'd
goodness.
sit there. Yeah, it was a pretty magical place for sure. The other really amazing thing that Maria taught me was handmade pasta, and she had a 6-foot long rolling pin, and Maria is 5'1", and so this rolling pin was taller than she was. Yeah, and she had a table that was short. And we had to actually eventually put the table on stilts for me because it was I was hurting my back trying to do what she did, and I'll explain in a minute. But she would use, she'd get a big dough ball, and she'd take that rolling pin, and she would roll out 6 foot in diameter pasta sheets, and then cut the noodles as such. So the tagliatelle or pappardelle that you would eat was 6 feet long. That was coming out of your plate.
Oh my goodness.
And she taught me how to do that. It was really, really fun. And once she taught me, it was all females in this kitchen too, which made it easy for me too, because they were all like, oh man, there's a guy in here. Yeah. And she taught me how to do it once. I made it, and she tested it. She picked it up with her hands, and then she looked at all of her cooks and was like, in Italian, because I don't know what she said at that point. I didn't know her that well. It was like, this American man can make all the pasta this special, and you guys can't do nothing.
That's awesome.
And so after that day, I had to make it every single day. So I kind of cursed myself, but it was also very fun.
Yeah, it's all right? Like you found your place, kind of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. And then anything else in Italy, or should we jump to Spain? That's amazing experiences.
Oh, yeah. The other really amazing Italian experience was living in, I got to stay for 3 weeks in Fiesole, which is right outside of Firenze or Florence. Mm-hmm. And it's on the hill, and my friend Franz lived there. But it was the same experience. Like I said, I had met this guy once in America, and he never spoke English. We never even understood each other. But when I got there, my friend said, oh, call Franz up. He knows how to speak American now. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And same deal. I just walked to some random bar, and he found me. And in that experience, he goes, well, you'll live with me for 2 weeks. And so I lived with him, and I cooked for him and his roommates, flatmates. And the Tour de Italy, Tour de France is going on right now, but they have the Tour de Italy, which is the same thing. Mm-hmm. The race went right by his house, so we got to sit outside and picnic and watch him go by. That was also pretty special.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
super cool. That's awesome. And then let's jump over to Spain. And tell us about Spain.
So Spain was a different experience as far as monumental. Oh my God, I've never seen this before kind of deal. Barcelona in general is obviously like that. So. Yeah. If you've never been.
I haven't.
Oh, man. So it's pretty incredible. All the art by Gaudi and stuff is just out of control. Mm-hmm. But it was more of a social experience in Barcelona than it was a spiritual experience in Italy, I feel. More people spoke English, so it was like, oh, I can talk to more people. Yeah. And you live on the beach every day, so you're just kind of going down to the beach and enjoying that. But the best part about Barcelona was we opened a bicycle club. And randomly I met a guy named Ronnie, an Italian guy named Ronnie. And rewind. When I went to Mallorca, I had a job, got there, went to visit the restaurant, and the guys were kind of a joke. And I was like, I can't work here. This isn't what I came here for. Mm-hmm. So I stayed on Mallorca for a month and a half. And then I was like, I have to get a job. So I moved to Barcelona, got the job at Caracoles, but this guy, Ronnie, was in the Airbnb I stayed with, And we just kicked it off because he was also Italian from the Marche. And I had told him about my previous experience. I was like, oh, thank God. I'm finally meeting someone like my experience from before.
Yeah.
And he was opening a bicycle club where it was like a random building in the Berigatico that he was building everything out of pallets that he collected off the street.
Okay.
He literally would just collect pallets off the street of Barcelona, disassemble them, sand them, paint them. And we built this entire club with a kitchen because we had to build a kitchen.
Yeah.
And then we started cooking meals for all these just bicycle
cyclists coming through.
Enthusiasts, yes, from all over the world. And it became really big, and it was a really cool thing. And that's what we did while I worked at the restaurant as well. And man, was that fun because we just met from people all over the world and talked about bikes and food. And it was
What kind of stuff were you guys making?
Dude, I made everything. I made all the stuff that I had been making in Italy previously. Mainly handmade pasta, but we had a little back area as well, and we bought a grill, and we started doing like larger pieces of meat. And I mean, the maiale latte was my claim to fame. It's the easiest dish you can do, and you can do it anywhere, and you can do it in a crock pot. It's literally pork shoulder, milk, sage, garlic, and lemon, salt and pepper.
Okay.
And maiale latte means milk braised pork.
Okay.
And you traditionally do it in the oven, and you fill the milk up just halfway above the pork shoulder, and you braise it in the oven for approximately 2.5 hours, and you flip it every 30 minutes, and it becomes crispy, and then saturated, crispy, saturated. But the beauty of it is the lemon mixes with the milk, and it curdles it. And it makes cheese curds that come up to the top, and they suck in the pork fat and the sage leaf flavor. And then when you serve this pork shoulder that's now falling off the bone, you have these beautiful fatty milk curds that taste like sage that you're serving with it. It's delicious.
Jeez. And as I tell all my listeners and everyone listening to the podcast, if you are hungry right now, you are, and you haven't eaten yet, you're in trouble. Yeah, you're in trouble. That dish sounds amazing. We'll definitely put that in the notes as one of the recipes to you sharing. Yeah, I mean, Europe. I haven't been, so that's definitely on the list. But anything else from Spain? Is that club still there? Is that a bike club you think is still there? Or?
So it was called Barna Padala, and no, it's not there anymore. Okay. Unfortunately, Ronnie, he lives in the south of France now, so he moved, but he's still riding bikes.
Nice.
But no, the only other really amazing, there was very many things, but the other really mentionable part of Spain was I did get to go to Pamplona and run with the bulls. Oh. And in Pamplona, when you go to that celebration that week, they have it's a paella festival. So when you go to a certain part of that town's like 2,000 people, 363. But for so many days of the year, it is just packed with tourists and everybody for the running of bulls, naturally. But they have a paella festival where the pans are probably like 5 feet in diameter, and there's 50 of them, just tents, moly. And they're all different types of paella. And you just go down and they give you taste. You don't even have to buy them. They just give you tastes before you even have to buy them.
Jeez, just a little spoon taste.
Mm-hmm. So
and it's like everything: seafood, meat, chicken.
Yeah. So the craziest paella is rabbit and pig's feet braised in milk.
Okay.
They do that one in milk.
Wow.
Oh no, excuse me. It's pig's feet and escargot, pig's feet and snails, raised in milk.
All right.
That was the funkiest one.
That's definitely a funky one for sure. It's not something you think of paella.
Nope.
Yeah.
But it was really good.
Awesome. And then any bad experiences? And this doesn't have to be in Europe. I always ask everyone like their best. We haven't got to your best and worst restaurants in the world, but yeah, I will start with the worst ones. You got any bad experiences?
The only bad experience I had ended up turning into a good one, and that was Ronnie and I coming back from not going to sleep all night, walking across the beach in Barcelona. This woman and her friend were swimming in the beach, and this guy tried to steal their stuff. But the beach is really big, and it was low tide, and this guy was trying to run across the sand, and we were on the bike path, and we saw it happen, and the girl yelling, and well, we cut him off, and we got him. So it seemed weird at the time, but Ronnie looked at me, and he was like, let's get him.
Awesome.
And so we got the guy. He got away, but we got the bag back for the girl, and then she offered us 2 Estelas. When you go to Barcelona, you'll know what that means, but it's like a $1 beer. And we're like, no, we don't need your $1 beer out of your purse that we just saved for you. But
yeah,
that was really the only bad time.
Heroes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I just, all the different things you meant, it's just amazing. Different, having the connection with food. I think like being able to hand make stuff and you being able to take that away, like the handmade pasta. I mean, I don't know how many people out there have made pasta by hand, but it's so rewarding at the end. I know they were making you work and you were earning your keep, but like that experience is, fantastic.
Oh, it was incredible. That rewind back to Italy real quick. The Crescia thing that I mentioned that we did at the restaurant is regional / familial. Like every family makes a different type of Crescia. And I got to go to my friend's house, Luca's mother's house, where his grandma lived. And there was said to be gold buried in the garden somewhere that she forgot where it was. That's how old this woman was. And she taught us how to make like 7 different types of Crescia, not just the one that Maria did at the restaurant. And that was really cool too. And they were so happy to share it with me. And I don't know, it's one of those moments you never trade,
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. And then when you came back from Europe, did you go back into work in the restaurants, or how did that happen before you started the butcher shop? So
when I came back from Europe, I did a lot of help for Lizzie, Elizabeth Bender, top chef, my mentor, lady, good friend who lives up in Napa. We did a lot of events together, and my business partner Jordan, I met him at an event that I was working at, and he was the one who brought up that he had a butcher shop, and I said, "Oh, what do you need cut up?" And he said, "Oh no, I need someone to run a butcher shop." And I was like, "Oh well, I don't know anyone who would do that for you. I'll talk to you some other time." And a couple months later, I saw him again, and he said he was going to sell it. And he's like, "You really need to look at this place. I think you'll enjoy it. It reminds me of the stories you've been telling." And I went and looked at it, and sure enough, it was. And I couldn't turn it down. That's how I started up 8 years ago.
I was going to ask you, what year did you start?
2015.
2015.
Yep.
And I mean, I know, are you classically trained with food at all, with butchery or anything?
Nope. None of it. No.
Most of it was in the restaurants, right?
It's all come through experience. I have no school training at all. It's just through people teaching me stuff.
Yeah. And then how did becoming a butcher, how did you gain all that? Yeah,
so we did do a lot of that in the in the restaurant. We did a lot of butchering. Okay. And then in Italy at that restaurant, like Cafane, because we did all the game, we actually got a lot of whole animals. That's how they broke them down, and they just grilled up parts and pieces.
Nice.
And so we did it like that. And then, a lot of it was just reading and learning.
Yeah.
Having an open mind and trying to figure things out and not being too closed-minded, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and then tell us about Gambrel. So Gambrel and Company is in Redwood City. It's at 810 Main Street in Redwood City, California. And tell us about your shop and, why you opened it and why you ended up taking it on. And
yeah, so, I really felt obligated when I got back from Europe to share this experience and how food makes people feel. And I think that was my biggest premise when Jordan offered me the opportunity. I was like, oh man, I'm going to do this because I want to share something. I'm not going to make $1 million, but I want to share what food is supposed to be about. And congruently also supporting all the little farms and people that are also having that same mindset, but you'll never think about them because they're not in your face, right? And so supporting the small California farms and obviously showing people that cooking is way more gratifying than just buying something at the store. but also these fun things that you can do with food, i.e. the sausage, the duck confit, the vice versa, the different sauces. Today I made the sugo de canillo, which is one of my favorite dishes also, which is a braised rabbit with guanciale, rosemary, thyme, little sage, white wine, and tomato. You serve that over some pappardelle. I call that a warm Italian hug.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've been going to your shops maybe 2018 or so, and we met, and I told you I cooked a little bit, but what I liked was when I asked you about, hey, what should I do? What do you think I should do with, you have some unique items like crepenettes, and I'd ask you, hey, what should I do with that? And you always had a good suggestion, like, you can grill it, you can smoke it, you can, and you always had a suggestion, which I like, because a lot of times you go to even your local grocery store or another butcher, they don't have the option. They're like, we can tell you what cut we have. We just grill it or saute. That's the options they give you. No, and no vast ideas for anything,
Well, back in the day, the people that you hallowed as important in your life, there was the doctor, the butcher, and then your wife. You would go to the butcher not only for, local banter and gossip, but also for what was good and what you would be eating or what you should be eating and what, people were excited about. If you did have questions about things, food or otherwise, the butcher wasn't a bad guy to go to. One of my best anecdotes about this is my parents got divorced when I was like 11, but we had a butcher. His name was Cliff. And I would never forget about going to Cliff's store because we would go there on Saturdays religiously, and he would give us rolls of bologna. But when my parents got divorced, we went there, and my mom told me this years later, but Cliff asked my mom if she needed anything, and he said, "No. Do you need anything? Do you need me to take care of him?"
Jeez.
Yeah, and your butcher should be maybe not quite that close, but pretty close.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, like the old school, staples in the town to give advice,
Mm-hmm.
and help everybody out.
Yeah, you're pillars of the community, I think, and it's a big deal to have places like that. I mean, shucks, not to compare us to the library because obviously they have way more leagues of knowledge, but a similar type of thing that you need in your community all the time.
And why don't you tell us about what you carry? And, I know there's a couple farms. I'm sure you want to highlight who they are and tell us what you got at the shop.
Definitely. So all of our 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef, lamb, and chicken come from Marin Sun Farms, which is up Point Reyes Way, but it's a collective of small family farms that are up in the North Bay. And they've been going around for a while. David Evans is the owner, and they've really done a great job to support sustainable agriculture. They're part of what's called MALT, which is the Marin Agricultural Land Trust. And this is land that has been established to never be developed and only produce sustainable agriculture, essentially. So it's not only great meat to eat, but it's revitalizing ecosystems, which is amazing. And then our pork farm is Llano Seco Ranch, which has been around since 1896, I believe. It's a 7th-generation farm. They got their land from the American Spanish land grant so long ago, and they've kept it in the one family, and they have a very biodynamic system where they create this ecosystem that has pork, almonds, beans, grains. They have a little bit of beef production, but they also just really produce this farm that is eco-focused, which is an amazing part, similar to malt, where this land will never get developed, and it's always going to be producing things that are great for us and hopefully future generations.
Awesome. And then the beef, where's that?
So the all the 100% grass-fed beef is from Marin Sun Farms as well.
Oh, it is Marin Sun.
Yeah,
Farms.
but
Okay.
we also use Nyman Ranch for our pasture-raised natural beef.
Nice.
And when I first opened the butcher shop, I did all 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, and then I came to the debate where do I want to save the world or do I want to make money? and I came in the middle. So we we sell both.
Yeah.
Not that you can't make money from selling just grass-fed beef, but what I'm getting at by that point is everybody has different perspectives, and not everybody loves 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, because it's what you've been raised on. Some people just like stuff that does have some of the grain-finished things, and as long as you're sourcing stuff from producers who are getting good grains and not crappy government-subsidized stuff, then you're better off, for sure.
Yeah, and I think, we see eye to eye on this, of course, is like the closer connected to your food you are, the better, and knowing where everything comes from.
Mm-hmm. And we also sell the Wagyu beef that does come from Australia.
Okay.
That's our only imported beef product, but I really am excited about what they're doing as well. We keep a pretty close eye on everything that they're also up to, and the only reason that we tend more to that is just overall flavor, and they've been doing it for a little longer than we have here in the States as far as Wagyu beef programs go. We sell Snake River, does a great job, but I don't know that some of these Australian companies, that's been their focus for quite some time, and they have it down.
Okay. And then just a side note, like you did, your degrees in plant and soil science, were you planning on farming, or what was the plan there for that idea? Were you thinking about opening up a farm at first?
Yeah. So from my family, I guess, essentially, we always were kind of doing agricultural and things like that. And I did work for a farmer throughout high school as well as the pizza place. But it's funny you bring that up, because we're talking about opening up a bison ranch in Oklahoma right now. My business partner is actively buying land / getting stuff ready to do this 100% grass-fed bison ranch / maybe we're contemplating this like Western experience type of thing. So.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool.
That's on the up-and-coming new projects list.
It's on the docket, yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's cool. There you go. Mm-hmm. And then, just to describe the shop to everyone, you have this cool glass to the walk-in. What was the, design behind that? Just so that you could be, butchering back there and see the customers come in and show it off a little bit?
Yeah, partially. The main premise about that is transparency to the meat process. Yeah. And I think a lot of stuff is shoved under the rug, and it's becoming more and more like that with larger stores where they're just getting things in boxes and throwing it on shelves and saying they're doing jobs. Whereas we want you to see the whole thing and what we're doing. We want you to see how the sausage is made. Yeah. The whole anecdote that they say is, you never want to see how the sausage is made. We want you to see how it's made.
Yeah.
Because we're proud of it. You know?
And I like it, and I think all your customers like it.
I think so too, yeah.
When you ask Ben for ground beef and he's like, how much do you want? You see him go back there, you see him inside there, and he's grounding it fresh for you, and it's handed on on a sheet pan or whatever, and then it's weighed out, and then there you go. Mm-hmm. It's as fresh as you can get there.
Yeah, it's not quite as robotic and funny how we do a lot of things these days, but it's definitely fresher than some of those things for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. What are your favorite items at the butcher shop that you'd want everyone to know about that not necessarily, the usual items?
Yeah, I'm always super excited about my sauces that I make, which I mentioned before. Yeah. 3 of the main players are the braised rabbit, the bolognese, and the chicken andouille gumbo, which is my great-grandma's recipe. So that thing's always very popular. And then the duck confit, I just can't seem to make that fast enough. So if you find it at the store, buy it.
Snag it. Okay. Yeah. The gumbo, I'm going to have to come in there and get some gumbo.
Oh, yeah.
You have to let me know when you got some.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. And those are your 3 favorites, your sauces?
Yeah, those are my 3 favorite ones that we usually have around that you can look for sure.
And the unique item I mentioned, the crepinette, where's that come from?
So we used to make that at Bar Bambino. That's a French sausage, essentially. Yeah. I have an old charcuterie book at the shop that kind of highlights a crepinette that had a truffle underneath it. It was just pork. And that's where I got the recipe from so many years ago at the restaurant. But then we started changing the recipe and putting different things inside of the caul fat. And that's what really started lighting it up, because it was like, oh man, if you put any lean meat with different spices inside of this caul fat, it changes it. It's not just like putting it into a regular sausage casing. So the best part about the crepe vignette is the caul fat is the lining of the pork belly. So it's like the most decadent part of the bacon you can get that gets fried around your sausage. So I guess that's why it's so special.
That's awesome. And then is there anything new that you're trying to come up with or playing around with?
We are definitely looking at doing different poached sausages similar to the vice versa. I've been making more and more of those lately, which has been really fun. We'll see what happens for the holiday season. I'm sure we're going to create some more fun stuff. I don't know. I'll have to expand my mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like the variety that you have. It's always, there's always something in there. And then also some of the grocery stuff that you have stocked in there too, right? I mean, a lot of it's Italian, right?
Yeah, most of it is Italian. I work closely with a couple import companies that we used to do at the restaurant. But my new favorite thing that we've been having at the shop that we're going to have more lately is the Fido and Figaro pasta, which is from this new, it's a new pasta company down in San Luis Obispo called Eto, and they're friends of mine. But the Fido and Figaro are extruded dogs and cats, and they're in different bags, and we debate on whether people are more cat people or more dog people.
Okay.
And the cats won out this last time. So.
All right. Are you a cat or dog person?
Me? Well, I have two of my old dogs in like portraits at the shop, and I have two dogs. I would say I'm probably more of a dog person, but I love cats too.
Yeah. Another like fun question. Do you have any guilty pleasures?
Guilty pleasures. Well, I do love, I could probably eat like 6 Scotch eggs.
Scotch eggs. Explain that to everyone now.
Well, a Scotch egg is an egg that is cased in sausage and then encased in bread and then deep fried to the point where the egg inside is just barely nice and yolky. And you crack it open. And it looks like a Cadbury egg, but it's actually a real egg. And man, are they delicious. And if I had to pick a sausage, I would put the merguez around the Scotch egg.
There you go. Awesome. And then, I know, you dealt with the pandemic, obviously, along with everyone else, with, everything closing down and stuff. And you mainly went to a kind of an online pickup setup. Is there anything that you, learned from that? Or, I know you were cooking at home. Those are a couple things I wanted to ask you, how you dealt with that. And then, what'd you make at home, while stuff was shut down?
Well, the biggest thing I learned from the pandemic was that people can cook. More people wanted to cook at their house and know about things and recipes and whatnot than I had ever imagined, which was great. And also, just the excitement overall was pretty neat. The other thing I learned is people want to come into the butcher shop and talk about food. They don't want to particularly buy online, which is obvious, I guess, for the little shop that we've created. It would be a weird thing to ask somebody to buy something from a warehouse that was a 9x9 room.
Yeah. I mean, you provide that experience, so that's why, people crave that.
And I think that, and for me, I think I learned that was why I made the butcher shop in general. Like, if it would just stay the way it was during the pandemic, I don't know. I don't know if I could have done it. I enjoy people coming and having the experience.
Yeah. And then, would you cook at home? Is there anything like, that I know the stuff you cook at the butcher shop, but what's some of the other stuff that you were making?
Well, I have a pretty big garden at my house, so it's so funny. People ask me this all the time, but I cook lots of vegetables. I literally cook more vegetables than I cook meat. Bad PSA for the butcher shop, but I do. But if I could give you one amazing vegetable dish, it's my favorite. And it's got a really funny name. It's called top the noodle. All right.
Okay.
And you take an onion, goat cheese, ricotta cheese, and salt and pepper, and you blend it in like a food processor. And you mix a little bit of breadcrumbs in there, and then you make a quenelle, and you poach this business. And it makes a quenelle. If you don't know what a quenelle is, it looks like a football. But once it's done poaching, then you fry it in butter, and you serve it over stewed like kale with cracked walnuts and pumpkin seed oil and fresh toasted pumpkin seeds. And this, if you're not a vegetable eater, this will make you it'll make you drool. It's a really nice one.
Awesome. There's our recipe from Ben right there. Although there's like several throughout this whole conversation. And then, just kind of, there are a few things to close out with, but I always ask everyone, especially someone that works as much as you do as far as with food and in the kitchen and in the butcher shop, what's your favorite tool that you like to either, use every day or, my last guest, he has an EDC carry, which was a Leatherman scale tool that he used every day. I'm sure you've got a lot that you use at the butcher shop, but, what's your personal touch on that?
I've been anticipating this question, and honestly, I put a lot of thought into this, but my biggest and greatest tool are my Birkenstock clogs. If I didn't have my non-slip Birkenstock clogs, I don't know what I would do every day. They make my life a whole heck of a lot easier.
And are those the ones they just slip on one piece?
Yep.
And they're all rubber on the outside?
That's it. And you can hose them down at the end of the day. They're perfectly great.
Do you have the cork inserts?
I have Smartfoot or Superfoot.
Superfeet?
Yeah, Superfeet. Yeah,
yes,
that's
very
what I have.
nice.
Yeah.
I know those well. I still have my old pair. I was told to get those as soon as I started cooking in the kitchen because those old clogs that weigh like 5 pounds
no, you can't
are
have
terrible.
those.
And then, and I can explain why Ben loves those and why a lot of chefs like them is because if you do spill something hot on those, you can get your foot out immediately rather than trying to untie your foot with hot oil on it while it's bubbling and burning to crisp, So, and they are comfortable, of course, to stand in all day. And they, all the other aspects of them, you can throw them in the wash and they clean out and all that stuff. But the main one is, they're easy to get in and out of if there's something bad happens.
Oh, 100%. I had Crocs once, and I spilled a ramekin of black pepper on top of my foot. Well, they have the holes, and if you spill a ramekin of black pepper on your foot and you have a sweaty sock underneath, that thing will stay hot for the night. So
wow, yeah, you don't think
nice
about that.
Yeah, you don't until you do.
Yeah,
it's not fun.
That's cool. I mean, that's a perfect segue to the tool of the day right there. I mean, I agree with you. I have a pair, so I'm right there on you. And then, the floor is yours. Just close things out. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and sharing the origin of the butcher shop. Any advice for our guests? Anything you want to share? It's all yours.
Right on. The only thing I would say is, obviously, if you haven't already picking up what we're talking about here, food is a tool to spread love and joy, and I hope everybody understands that and does that going forward. And that's what we try to sell at the butcher shop as well. Like, it's the experience, but I don't want you just to go home with a good product. I want you to go home with a good story, a good feeling, and something that will really solidify how you feel about your stance and everything. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben. He's Gambrel and Company on Instagram, Gambrel and Co. on .com. Is that right? On the web. And that's it. And that's how you get a hold of him. He's at in Redwood City, 810 Main Street. Appreciate everyone for listening, and we're out.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care. Take care, everybody. And as a quick reminder, the restaurants and gear talked about on each episode can be found on my website, foodoriginspodcast.com. I appreciate your support, and thanks for listening.